their mom, their dad. So therefore, that results in a pressure. The pressure not to conform becomes a non-issue. Okay. Again, authenticity, conformity. Right? And then also their identity is safeguarded. So if you think about the second level there, this idea of privacy and not being marketed to, that again is a driver of authentic expression, or being willing to be more open with regard to opinions. The other piece, which we don't have here, which is this idea of the normalization of the type of sharing. So again, if you think back to those videos back there, what were they saying? They were saying, I'm not going to share that because I don't think it's of value. In a research community or in a private social network, we change that dynamic. We say, this is what we want. We reward you for that. And that, again, has an impact on what is shared. So the other thing we asked is we said, in terms of product-related sharing, how open are you in a private social network versus a public one? The results were pretty striking. Overwhelmingly, these people who participate in both said, I'm more open in a private setting than a public setting. Okay? And I'm not saying that what we hear in public social networking isn't valuable, because it is. Because, again, one of the other main differences between a private social network and a public social network, when we do public mining of social data, these are spontaneous expressions. Right? These are things that are just on people's minds and they're sharing it. So that's a very different thing, and I think it's very valuable in and of itself. But I think the thing is that there's also a degree of openness here that is different between those two. So what I want to do is I want to show you, again, some more video clips from our IDIs that, again, go into the point and the thought about how people think about what they share in a research community or a private social network versus public. This first respondent, when they're talking about the community, they're talking about our consumer village, so just for context.
The community. I really try to open up and share whatever great ideas I would have had.
Try to be on Consumer Village excruciatingly honest. And I share the bad stuff as well as the good stuff. But let's say I hate silver. That's my personal opinion. So if I see a product with silver on it, I'm going to hate. I mean, I would tell you that in Consumer Village. In Facebook, that tiny minutia, detail, negative stuff, you don't post it.
I would think, again, with setting the bar on the positives and negatives, because Consumer Village is actually, specifically asking for my opinion, I would shed light on both the positive and the negative aspects, no matter how small I would think that they are. On Facebook, again, I'm not going to go out of my way for a product that's just so-so, but if I'm on Consumer Village or I'm on it, or someone's asking me specifically about it, I'm going to tell you exactly the pros and the cons.
So again, think about what they were saying and how they were thinking about what they share. Again, this normalizing of the type of sharing does create, again, a complementary set of types of things that people are talking about within the research community setting. But let's get to the next piece of it, the third leg here. So when we take a look at our study, 75% of Twitter and Facebook users access those two networks at least weekly from their smartphone. So very, very high engagement. If you take a look at any statistics from Facebook, same sort of thing, same sort of detail emerges. So the question then becomes, how do smartphones change the equation? What does having a smartphone do for what you share? And again, as we think about products and services, what does it do? So again, as we take a look at our nice analysis here, and this is what I'm showing you here is a summary of a few different ways of looking at the data, but basically it's a fairly interesting story, which is the more mobile you are, the more open you are. So again, if you take a look at, what we did is we took a look at people who were active, let's say, on Facebook and Twitter. Okay, they have a smartphone, and what we did is we took a look at how open they are on Facebook and how open they are on Twitter by their own report, how mobile they are, how frequently they participate via mobile. So if we normalize, across that, what we see is the more active you are on a social network with mobile, the more open you are. Pretty clear. But it goes a little bit further. The correlations show that the more mobile you are, the more likely you are to share about products and services. Again, as researchers, that's what we want. And it's also, there's a lot of other things we will share more of, obviously checking in and things like that. But from a research perspective, this is important because it really fills in the gap. And I think the other thing that's really interesting is that they're more likely to talk about minor experiences. So again, if you think about kind of what we saw with regard to Facebook, let's say, more emphasis on major experiences than major purchases than minor purchases, mobile changes the whole game, turns it upside down, fills in the gaps to some degree. And that's a really good story. I think that's really interesting and important with regard to mobile. What I want to do is I want to show you some clips here. Again, some of our interviewees talking a little bit about how having a smartphone changes, again, what they share, how they share, what they share of themselves in this case, they're probably not talking about Facebook.
The smartphone actually gives you an opportunity to express a more realistic picture of what's going on in my life. As far as, pictures, you can upload all kinds of things. I just think it's more realistic. Again, plus I can post positive and negative.
So I used a new car, and sitting in a dealership, which was obviously the 7-hour ordeal that it tends to be, I certainly used my phone a lot, and I did post on Facebook about it, about how long I sat there, about why the process takes so long, and going back and forth with people, I posted there. And then when I actually had the car, I think it was a day or two later, what I did was I took a picture of my XM radio and the blue station that I listened to, and I posted on that, saying, hey, yay, I get my blue station for another 3 months, because it came with the car. So I guess in that sense, I would post of, the service experience with me being at Nissan and then the purchase, but certainly the picture of the navigation screen with the XM, I would never have done without my iPhone.
When you receive bad customer service somewhere, I will tend to jump right on my smartphone. If I'm, if I've been waiting for dinner, this has happened several times. If you're waiting for dinner for, an hour or so at a restaurant, I can immediately jump on and say, oh, this place is ridiculous. I can't believe it. I would have never put that on Facebook because by the time I would have got home, I'm fat and happy, I've eaten, I'm going to sleep or get on with my night, so I'm not going to take the time to do that. But because I have it right there in the moment, immediately it's going to go on Facebook.
So we started out our presentation with this idea of, hey, there's these social technologies, and how does the self come through? What did we just learn? What did we just see? What did we just hear? Right? This device is the most personal of all computers, really. It's with us, we're connected to it, we share with it. There's something really important about the way people share using a smartphone that sort of, to some degree, overcomes some of those self-censoring things that we talked about earlier. Because it's with us, we don't reflect as much, and so therefore we just share. And I think that's, from a research perspective, significant. So, at the end of the day, what did we really learn here? I think there's 3 key things that I learned from this. I think they're worth repeating. One is, with regard to social listening, we just have to be, I think it's valuable, I think it's very valuable, the spontaneous nature of it is unique. But we have to be cognizant of the filtering behavior across platforms. And we also have to be cognizant of the potential shift in tone between positive and negative. It doesn't appear to be as much equally balanced. It seems like it's tending to move more on the negative nature. From a research perspective, I think this is also an interesting story from a research community perspective. It's really clear that the environment of a research community short-circuits some of the effects of social conformity. It does address some of these authenticity issues because it, again, removes one from the social sphere, normalizes the kind of sharing, and therefore creates a different kind of experience and sharing than we might see if we were only looking at it publicly. And I think third, there's something very important about smartphones. And I would say that what we've got here is that a smartphone really encourages and allows the authentic self to emerge in a way that the PC doesn't. I think it's very important from the perspective of where is research going, what does it mean, and how can we get closer and closer to the core of who human beings are and what they think about and how they share and what we can learn from them.